Dr. Bahnsen, you have done a good job in disproving Tobias's arguments against why he doesn't believe in God, but the burden of evidence lies with you. You must first prove that God does exist. Please prove it. You have not proved that God does exist more than Tobias has proven that God has not merely a human projection, I believe that is.
No, I think the person who's asked the question has really missed the point of the argument. I have proved that God exists, in that all proof requires an assumption about induction and the uniformity of nature, and only the Christian worldview comports with that assumption. And therefore, God is the foundation of all reasoning about any matter whatsoever. Now, I've set that out there as a philosophical argument. I'm waiting for some refutation of it. I'm not asserting that just on my own authority. I'm saying atheism doesn't comport with the uniformity of nature. The Christian theistic view does, and that shows that that worldview is more rational than the other, that the one is irrational, as a matter of fact. The questioner says that the burden of proof is on me to prove that God exists. Well, that's a very misguided philosophical notion. I hope you didn't all come in here tonight with the presumption of atheism. You should have come in here to realize that philosophical worldviews all have the burden of proof to show that they make sense, that there's a reason to believe them, and so forth. Atheism has not offered any reason, any constructive reason, for why its worldview should be believed. What I have shown is that if you reject the theistic worldview, if you affirm the atheistic one, then you undermine all reasoning, all science, all human dignity, all moral absolutes, and so forth and so on. No, I don't have the burden of proof any more than my opponent does. Or if you will, I would speak from a Christian standpoint. Since God is so clearly known to everyone, and we all come in here knowing God, the burden of proof is on people to show that he doesn't exist.
Thank you, Dr. Bahnsen. Would you please respond, Mr.
Well,
Tobias?
I believe that, in a sense, the burden of proof is on the proposer of the supernatural phenomenon, and I say that to go back to Dr. Peikoff's analogy of who has the burden of proof about the convention of gremlins on Venus studying Hegel. And I believe that the one who posits an entity of supernatural quality outside the boundaries of the natural universe, outside of our experiential comprehension, that is the one who has the burden of proof. Now, I believe that there are many, many good and intelligent people who do not see this evidence, this ever-present evidence that Dr. Bahnsen sees of this God. Dr. Bahnsen acts as if this God were somebody sitting in the audience who could be seen. It's almost like the invisible friends we all had when we were a child. The 3-year-old says, "I want you to meet my friend Ralph," but you can't see Ralph. Well, I can't see Dr. Bahnsen's Ralph, who he calls God. I admit that. I don't see Ralph. And I don't believe that my inability to see Ralph is because of a defect in my perception. I believe that it's up to Dr. Bahnsen, since Ralph is invisible, to prove that Ralph exists. And in the absence of that, I believe that a burden of proof is on him, because he is postulating the claim that requires going outside of nature.